photos? Still have the photos? Okay.
Welcome to the Lee Majors and Lindsay Wagner Q&A. Let's give them another round of applause. So how are you enjoying your time in Massachusetts?
Good. This is a low budget deal here. We got one mic. Better to be here than Buffalo.
So my first question for you is, what got you into acting in the first place? Because everybody has an interesting journey of how they became actors.
There you go.
I'm not getting out of this one because I started. Actually, I started studying acting when I was a kid. I used to babysit for James Best and his wife. He was a wonderful actor, some of you may remember him from the Dukes of Hazzard. He was the goofy sheriff. However, he was a really fine dramatic actor. I think he was a coach and I babysat for them and started teaching acting. One thing led to another several years later and
Mine was pretty easy. I just started doing stunt work. And that kind of got me into the door and started doing some auditions and got an agent and started working. 51 years ago, that was done.
Wow. Speaking of stunts, what was one of the most dangerous stunts that you performed?
All of them. I remember one that stands out is in Palm Springs on the trams they have going up the side of the mountain. There was some kids trapped in the tram between towers, and it stopped and there was no way to get them. So Steve Austin has to climb up the tower and then kind of go across. There's four sets of cables to get to the tram. I actually wasn't going to do that. In fact, my stuntman really wasn't going to do that because he didn't like heights. Anyway, but I had carried Vince for many years through the Big Valley. Not carried, but I mean, I did most of my stuff in the Big Valley, and Vince was my stunt guy, but I was young and invincible, supposedly. It was just more fun, made the day go faster, and so Vince brought in another stunt guy that was, respectively, was more or less to do this, and I guess they walked around all day, all morning, looking up and looking at it, and when it came time to do it, that guy didn't do it for some reason. I don't know why, but whether he got sick or maybe he backed out, I don't know. But we were kind of losing time, so I asked the director, Mike Motor. Actually, it was the Old Man Motor. Mike Motor was the AJ. There was a. Anyway, I said, look, I'll just go ahead and do it, and so that's the way it came about. But getting up there was easy. Going out on the cables was the toughest part. There were two sets, a set of cables below you that you walked on that were like that, but they had grease on them naturally because they needed it for the trim. So they had to wear these special boots that wouldn't help you keep from sliding. And then you had two cables at waist high, which started at your waist, and as you got towards the tram, you were into almost, just before you get to that thing, you're almost in a duck walk. And it's a very awkward position. And then that was when about 5 or 10 feet from here to this fella in the front row is when I kind of froze up. Because I looked at it, but it was really 250 feet, and so you got a little nervous, and then I decided, well, I don't think I can move. Do I go back? It was hard enough to get here. And so I looked down, and then I saw the two stunt men taking pictures. And the other guy shooting up, taking pictures, and it kind of just somehow got the adrenaline going. I said, that son of a gun. So I made it to the top of the tram, and I didn't smoke. But I asked the cameraman who was on top of the tram with the camera and another assistant if they had a cigarette. I guess now I know why they want cigarettes after they do something or other. You know? But anyway, that was probably the roughest. It wasn't physical, it was just a mental thing. Physically, a couple, real quick, I'll try. On a horse in the Big Valley, going along with Linda Evans, and see the old rifle barrel in the bushes and dive off. They put a stunt girl in for her. Naturally, I did mine. Dove off, landed so that the girl more or less landed comfortably and rolled down the hill. The stunt was great. Okay, we moved down there. We put the camera down there. Okay, bring Linda in. And we put her on the ground, and I'm kind of on top of her. And nobody said to us that the director was going to fire a gun right behind the camera, which he did, and it scared Linda. I went ducked down, and she raised up and broke my nose back of her head.
Wow.
Then I hear the next thing is, let's get his close up before it swells.
That's fine. Those are awesome stories. Now, Glenn A. Larson, who recently passed away, he worked on $6 Million Man, and I think produced The Fall Guy. Could you talk about some stories working with Glenn?
Well, Glenn was a pleasure to work with, as I'm sure Tom Selleck could tell you. He was here with Magnum PI. Glenn always used to love to write his stuff in Hawaii, which is great. That's how he can convince you that it's really going to be a good series. And invite you over to Hawaii and be there and help him kind of, while he writes it, you have those little umbrella drinks. It works out well, but Glenn was a wonderful man. I can't believe how many series that he created himself. And he naturally lost him a week ago. But just amazing. And Selleck can tell you, I know he still drinks it. I don't drink any wine anymore, but it's like a Cabernet Robert Mondavi, 1974. So if you're ever with Glenn, you were in the store searching for that, because he was a great wine connoisseur. But just a wonderful man. He was a Mormon. Had about 8 kids, and just a very nice guy.
That's wonderful. Now, Lindsay, this fascinated me. On The Bionic Woman, you played your look-alike, Lisa Galloway. How was that experience, playing the 2 different roles?
Exhausting.
Exhausting.
Okay, you're up. Okay, you're up. Okay, yeah, you're up. It was really interesting. You know, the technology back then was nothing like what we have today. So we had to do things where there were a lot of straight lines on the wall so that they could match up the 2 shots. It was interesting working with the stunt person and watching her mimic me and seeing when she wasn't doing it right and then thinking, should I go on? Or should I stop and correct her? It is a lot of work, but it's really interesting to change your mindset sometimes I'd stop playing Lisa and it was time to play Jamie again, and I was still talking like this. I was like, Lindsay, what? Oh, okay. Didn't quite switch all the way over. So there was a lot of interesting challenges. I'm trying to remember all the various things. Sometimes when I watch a show, I'll remember more than just kind of off the top of my head. But mostly it was having to change the head and then just constant.
You played it so believably. I mean, you played the 2 roles very distinctively as well.
Thank you.
Now, this always fascinates me. There's action figures and dolls of both $6 Million Man and The Bionic Woman. How did you feel when you first saw the action figures for the first time?
Well, they came out and they measured, I assume they did the same for you, they come out and they measure, they do a mask on your face, and then they measure with this little thing that measures centimeters and half a centimeters and all that, every little thing in your face. And they made my doll, and they came out for approval, and it looked exactly like his wife. What was all that stuff you were doing? No, I don't approve that. I mean, she's pretty. I don't mind being associated, but come on. So they had to go back back to the drawing board and got it a little closer to me. That was my first experience with the doll.
How about you, Lee? When you saw your action figure, let's not call it a doll, let's call it an action figure.
Yeah, I was going to correct you on that. But I have guys one thing. I had your doll. I didn't know you had my action figure. I really didn't think much of it. I mean, I thought it was pretty cool, but you know, it's at that time there wasn't much merchandising stuff going around for shows. So, and you didn't realize, as she can tell you, we work so hard and so long, hours in this business, that maybe you get a couple months off or 2 months off. But the months you are working, you're doing 12, 14 hours at least a day. And so those months I have off, I would run to a place I had that was a hideaway, just with no TV, no phone, no nothing. In fact, my agent couldn't even get a hold of me. And so you don't realize, first of all, you don't realize how popular the show was when you go there. It's probably only in the later years that you realize, you know what, God, it's affected a lot of different decades, and it's a pretty damn good show. But it's only because of you people who come up and say that you watched it, you loved it, and all that. Because we didn't get, I only started doing these a couple of years ago, and so I didn't get out much as far as in the public. But just realizing how much that show meant to a lot of people, and I was just amazed. And so now I understand all the dolls and the lunch boxes and the stuff. At least we got residuals from it, or money.
It's in the contract, but we don't. I don't know how they did that.
Well, I'll tell you how they do it. Universal. I want them to do my taxes. I tried to audit them once years back, and we did kind of get through the paperwork and stuff. It came out that we owed them money. No, actually, they found that, we forgot. We raised your thing for a little, so I think I got a little check. And but then they said, we'll give you this, don't ever come back. Don't argue with us again. So you can't beat them. They got more lawyers than their best lawyers. And like I say, I wish we had them as our tax people. Anyway, that's all I want to say about Universal. I should have said I love you, Universal.
You said too much. No. No, but let's just take a poll here. How many people here in the audience had action figure of the $6 Million Man? Wow. That's awesome. That is great. Now, before I turn it to you guys to ask some questions, I want you to all think about some good questions here, okay? Got a few more questions for them. So you guys think about your questions, okay? All right, so my other question is, Sandra Bullock, one of her first early roles was in the Reunion movie with you guys. Could you talk about, like, this must have been new to her. You must have taught her so much about acting.
She worked with us more than I did in that show, because she was, I guess, going to be the next Spy Night one. I don't really know what the way plot was.
Yeah.
It was a girl show.
Yeah, no, she was very green at the time, but it was just had so much natural, bubbly energy and a darling personality, and kind of had to remind her to get on her mark. But as the show went on, she was doing better and better work, and there was a scene where she had to cry, and it was by the time she was kind of tired, and so we just did some work in the corner and came back. And she was right there, and I thought, this girl's going to be great. So, you mentioned that she was supposed to be the next generation. We went back to California, because we shot that in Canada. We went back to California, and everybody was waiting for this spin-off, but they decided, the studio, as I understand it, I don't know about the network, I think the studio, they had decided that she couldn't hold a series. And I went to bat because I thought she was so not. I said she's just great. She just meet a couple of shows and you're going to be like, trust me. I mean, I really get it. I worked with her and literally worked with her. Kind of helped her a little bit. I mean, not tons. She already had a lot of talent already, but just the work a little bit I worked with her. I said she's right there. She's just ready to pop up. And I said, I don't think she can really watch this one. Oh my goodness, that's sad. Well, next thing you know,
Yeah.
it was the hottest thing in town, so I'm sure they were spending some sad nights.
I don't think she made much doing that show either. You know, she never, yeah, no, she didn't get that.
Oh, well.
Because we weren't getting it. But she never hired us for any of her movies either. Hung around, right? Close to it.
Now this is interests me. On $6 Million Man and The Bionic Woman were on, because most spin-off shows are on the same network, but in this case they're on different networks.
1 year.
1 year.
1 year.
1 year. They wanted to, people that were developing all the shows at ABC at one point were trying to get rid of this show and my show at one point. It was just a political thing. And they kind of finally were able to kind of ease mine out. We had 1 year into it already, or right before I came on, 1 or 2. Second year, yeah. So, anyway, it was just a whole interpolitical thing. And NBC knew that we were still really hot, so they said, hey, what are you doing? This isn't because of ratings, so they kicked us out. Well, what ended up happening was that the man that was at ABC that literally got rid of The Bionic Woman on ABC ended up getting hired away by NBC that same year. So NBC put us on with NBC. And then they hired the same guy. He went, get that show out of here. So he fired me again. He got rid of The Bionic Woman again. At a different network. Yeah. You know, I'm pretty good at not taking things personally, but that was a tough one.
Now, Lee, you kind of spoofed your $6 Million Man character a couple times. I really like the movie Trojan War, and you play like a captain. He was Captain Austin or something like that. Do you remember that experience working on Trojan War, and then like you even spoofed the action of your $6 Million Man? Yeah, that was around like 96, 97. That is a long time ago.
Did it ever come out?
Yeah, it did.
Jennifer Love.
That's right, absolutely.
I didn't do much of that film, I don't think. I don't really remember that much about it, but I try to spoof it as much as I can. But the only good news is that there will be a $6 billion man movie that, who I'm very happy got the part of Mark Wahlberg. Peter Berg, who they did the Afghan, what was the Iraq picture? Wounded Warrior, was it? No, what's
The Lone Survivor.
Lone Survivor. That was
The audience helped out.
Great, thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, Peter Berg directed that, and of course Mark was in it. I've met Mark and I've met Peter, I know both of them. But I think it'll be a tremendous movie. And because, you know, they tried for many years, there was different titles going around, and people like Jim Carrey and some other people that I thought it must be a comedy. But finally, it's making some sense now, so maybe we'll see it. Don't ask me, I don't. They haven't written the script yet, so.
Hopefully they put you both in a cameo. I mean, that would be fantastic. Right?
Standing in the Wax Museum.
I think those eyes moved. I think no. So yeah, let's turn it over to the audience. Oh wow, hands up already. That's what I like to see. Okay, let's start like in the back corner right there. With the glasses over by there. Stand up if you ask a question. Yeah.
Hi. So I want to say,
These sideburns. Okay. Oh, have glasses. Excellent.
You got sideburns too.
Thank you, sir.
We know your show.
Ms. Wagner, I just wanted to say that your portrayal of Jamie made the viewer care about the character, and it's no wonder that you got the Emmys. So I think that every time I watch a show, the viewer cares about Jamie. The viewer wants to help her out. I wanted to just say that. And my question is, since he was a daredevil, not a professional actor, and a bit of a character, what was it like to work with Evel Knievel?
That's my boy back there, Elvis. I like him. I saw him on another show. Thank you very much.
Good guy.
Very interesting. He was a pistol. And showed up when he felt like it. Didn't. It was, it took us about 12 days to make that show. We shot all the rest of them in 8. He was just a free spirit, to say the least. It was pretty wild. There was a day when we were shooting, and he just loved messing with me. And we were shooting at the bottom of a very windy canyon. And all we were supposed to do was, he comes up and he rubs it, I can't remember what the line was, and he's something, and he says, get on, and I'm supposed to get on, and we're just going to roll out of this shot, meaning 10 feet at most. So I get on, and then he and or the stunt people were going to go do this whole big run up and down the hill really fast with cameras everywhere, which they didn't have set up or anything yet. So I get on and they say, action, he says, get on the car. And he takes off, he goes up that canyon at full speed. I had absolutely no control of this body or my mouth. Every swear word I'd ever heard in life came out of my mouth. I was literally beating him on his back. I was like, I was up here watching, going, you just calm down, and my body's going, such a girl. And, excuse me, you've done this to the audience, but it was terrifying. We got to the top. Look at, I'm stuttering, just remembering it. We get to the top, and he turns around, and I just start to get off, and he goes, hang on, and he takes off and goes back down.
Oh my God.
And by the time we got to the bottom, you know, I was almost crying. I was so terrified. And he's laughing, and he stops, and I get off, and there's my crew standing at me, the director, and everybody's staring, and I could see all these faces, and I thought, don't lose it till you get in your dressing room. Don't lose it till you get in your dressing room. So I swing my leg around, get off, I make a funny face, and I yelled, wardrobe, and I walked into my dressing room and just cried my eyes out, and I was really angry. But we made it eventually through the show, and I don't know, maybe it's an episode too late. I don't know. I haven't watched it yet. I'm going to do that with my therapist.
Okay, now with the glasses.
Okay.
Stand up.
Lindsay, I got to say, great job on Warehouse 13, if anybody saw it. Were you their first choice for that role?
Pardon?
Were you their first choice for that role? Or did you have to go, did they just call you and say, we want you for the role?
Yeah, they did. They just called. As a matter of fact, they'd kind of written it. The writer / producer that wrote that particular episode and was creating the character to come and go, they had written her with some of what they knew about me and what I was doing for the last 6-8 years at that time, which is doing these workshops and retreats, the meditation and the teaching people how to kind of relieve stress by doing a particular technique called tapping, where you tap on the acupuncture points. And it's a certain process that's really amazing, really powerful. And he'd read about that, and his wife had been doing some of that work as well. She was a holistic practitioner, and so he was familiar with it. So when he read that I was teaching that on my website, that's where, if you remember the introduction episode of Dr. Vanessa, she says to Artie, have you been doing your tapping? You know, and he goes, well, and then I said, no, you haven't, have you? And I start tapping on him, and he's like, ugh. That whole scene was based on the stuff that's on my website about that. And so it really tickled me when they sent it to me to say, would you come to play Dr. Vanessa? Well, they sucked me in by doing that, you know. So anyway, so I kind of rewrote it a little bit to make it more accurate, and you know, I mean, that was fun.
Warehouse 13 was a great show.
Yeah.
Great show, and it was awesome to be a part of it. Man with the hat?
This is for Mr. Majors. Lee Majors, you're an excellent actor. I understand one of your favorite episodes on the $6 Million Man is one of our running backs at Pissy. I'd just like to know what it was like to act with Larry Zonka and Jim Brown. And I understand you're a good friend of Elvis Presley, and he used to play football. I just wonder what it was like to play football with Elvis Presley and all those actors.
Elvis, it was flag football, which is still can be pretty rough. Because he had his own rules too, you know, and his own mafia bodyguards that played. The episode you're referring to is one of our running backs is missing with Jim Butkus, Larry Zonka, a bunch of Ram players. And that happened to be the first episode that I directed. And it was a tough show to do because they're not really actors per se. So to do, we had a football field set up, but it was guarded by some prisoners, and it was just a hard rock place. I mean, it wasn't a real field. It was just out in the pasture, but it was not very soft either. And so Larry and I were on the same team, and the other guys were the guards. It was supposedly like the longest yard kind of thing, but I remember, I don't know why, but when they kicked the ball off to Larry and I, there's two of us on this team. He gets the ball, and I have to block for him. And it should have been, he should be blocking for me. He's a big mountain of a guy. Anyway, we were going down, and my thing is to throw a block into Dick Butkus, and then get up and go throw one into another one of those big players. And after the first one, he landed on my ankle, so I was able to get up and start limping on. I didn't try to show the limp, but it was a tough show. But to get them to stay on the set for most of the day because it was hot, I ordered a garbage pail full of ice water, ice, and a couple of cases of beer. I figured they didn't have many lines. All they had to do was play a little football, so they couldn't really screw it up. So that's about, you know.
Going back to your directing, was it interesting to direct yourself?
Yeah, it's hard. You never really want to do that. You find anytime you're directing yourself and you're in the shot, and you got especially that show with that many people, that many guys in it, it was just and they weren't really actors, it was very tough to do. So, but directing yourself is always kind of tough, because you really want to concentrate on the other actors and whoever you're directing. And as your director, you know you've got so many people coming up every second asking you a question about wardrobe or the next scene, something, props or something. So it's a very difficult thing to do.
Next question. See you over there.
Yeah, I just want to thank you for coming to Boston, the Mega Fest. We really enjoyed it. Quick question about Andre the Giant. What was it like working with him at the Bigfoot episode? Because I know you're both in the episode, I believe, right? Yeah. The Bigfoot hysteria at that time. Yeah.
Mine's short.
Mine's long.
I did read it on the bathroom wall. Anyway. The costume smelled horrible. It was just awful. And, you know, and he, at the end of the day, oh, okay, we're gonna hug him. Yeah, that's the thing that's on my mind. Nasty, stinky thing. And he had to crawl all over him. with it on. That must have been fun.
Just a quick story. As we were shooting in the woods, a hot sunny day, and Andre loved beer, and he was in that suit all day, as you can tell you. And I'm sure he was sweating quite a bit in there. He was 400 pounds and 7'5" or more. And so we got him some beer, and he would take a break. He would sit in the director's chair and we'd watch him, and he'd pop a beer and chug it down, crush the cans all the way. He did 6 of them. Didn't bother him. Okay, Andre, come on. Well, hate to say this, but one time I didn't do it, but they slipped him a little LASIK, a little water pill. How do you figure how long you could go in that suit without having to know? I don't know what you were smelling. Because I never saw him go all day. It's kind of a bad thing. But you know what? His kidneys were this big, so they didn't affect him. But Andre the Giant was a wonderful French wrestler. He loved to cook. He had a restaurant in France, and that was his biggest passion. And he was a very gentle man. They called him the Gentle Giant, and just a wonderful guy.
So when Bigfoot came back, though, he was played by Ted Cassidy.
Yeah, that's correct. Andre wasn't available, probably for doing wrestling somewhere all over the world, and there was a stunt guy named Ted Cassidy who filled in. He didn't fill the suit quite as good as Andre the Giant, but we got away with it. I mean, who could tell?
Okay.
They both smell the same.
Recollections, you did one of the original time travel movies, the Jimmy Logan. I only saw it once, never available again. Thoughts, sir, about that movie?
It was interesting. A couple of different things stand out in my mind about it. One is that you really learn. I mean, okay. They're both trying to get out at the same time, both ideas. I hadn't had the experience. I hadn't been in business, well, all that long. I had been doing 6 mil and whatnot, but sometimes, you're always not shooting in sequence, the movie in sequence, right? So sometimes you have to shoot an ending sequence very early in the film. And in this case, I was playing with 2 different leads. I had my husband, and then there was my past life lover. And so we did all the stuff with my husband first, and then Mark Singer came on the show. And one of the scenes that I had to do with Mark was a love scene. And they had scheduled it, the very first scene, and I'd never even met him before. So it was, Lindsay, this is Mark. Mark, this is Lindsay. Okay, get in bed.